Please welcome to stage our CEO, Alan Masarek.
Well done. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Wow. So this is as Tom said, it's a very exciting time. It's a really exciting day. And so I get the opportunity this morning to speak to you for a few minutes about my second favorite topic. So I had a granddaughter about 6.5 months ago, so that's my first favorite topic. But Vonage is my second favorite topic. And so I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to speak to you this morning. And let me sort of lead off, and as Tom said, this is our inaugural worldwide user, developer, and customer conference. It's a really big deal given the transformation that we've gone through. There's over 1,000 people in an inaugural conference. It's a big number. 1,000 of you have registered for this event over these 2 days. You hail from about 20 different countries, virtually every state in the United States. You cover sort of every vertical industry. There's a whole bunch of developers across all sorts of various technologies and the like, line of business leaders, IT leaders, industry analysts, investors, our board. I welcome everyone. It's sure to be a great day, and we're really, really thrilled to have you here. So thank you so much for spending the time with us. I wanted to focus on one key topic, which, and Tom alluded to this, is that communications have profoundly changed. And clearly, so have we. And so I'm going to talk about where we are today and where we're going. But I think it's always important to look back first to kind of level set. So I came 5 years ago as CEO. Everybody remembers this, sort of the sea of orange and the like. And we're very proud of our heritage. Matter of fact, Vonage distinctly has a disruptive DNA. Almost 20 years ago, Vonage effectively commercialized this new technology called VoIP and brought it to the masses at its high watermark. Almost 3 million residences, mostly in the United States, were on the Vonage service. And so back then, Vonage brought great change. It embraced transformation. It disrupted an entire industry. But the lesson learned from that is that if we in life or companies as well don't continue to transform ourselves and embrace change, we get left behind. So we take the category of residential telephony, and it sort of hit its maturity, and then it's been in decline. Again, as all of us increasingly use our cell phones, the notion of a residential phone has declined. And so when I was recruited and joined 5 years ago, the residential business was already in its 6th consecutive year of decline. Here in 2019, we're in the 11th consecutive year of decline. It was clearly a melting ice cube. But the point is that we use that disruptive DNA. It sort of courses through our veins, and we said, we've got to transform, we've got to change. And that's exactly what we did. Now, when I work with our teams, and again, I was recruited to drive this transformation into business. When I work with our teams, I often use the following statement saying, I'm asking you to do this broad transformational change. My job as a leader, matter of fact, all our jobs as leaders, in my view, is to help others imagine what the change looks like. And so in the early days, when we talked about we're going to be this leader in business, which I believe we are today, we took this branding schema that we had and we had to change it. And if you recall, in the early days, we said we had to add the business suffix to the Vonage name simply because everyone knew us as residential at the time. And I used to tell employees when we were at conferences and the like, and you'd look at the big booth, and up on the top of the booth, it would say Vonage Business. We had to add that suffix to the name. And again, in the notion of helping people imagine first so that they could achieve, I'd say, look, see where it says business after the name? It won't be long where it won't say business, because Vonage will simply mean business. And this is exactly what this relaunch of the brand is all about. And so we're super proud about how we brought the pieces together to create the future of communications and to embody it in this new brand. Now, it's not like we just arrived today in business, obviously. And so if you look at sort of the scale that we've built, effectively from nothing 5 or 6 years ago, we now, from a financial point of view, and this is not a financial presentation, but it does bring context to it, that this year, the midpoint of guidance, we're a New York Stock Exchange public company, the midpoint of guidance is $805 million all in business. That makes us in a very, very strong leadership position in our industry. We've already pre-guided Wall Street that next year, in 2020, it'll be over $1 billion. Think of the scale, go on the left-hand side of the panel. When I joined 5 years ago, we were 1,100 employees. Principally in North America, some in Europe. We now are 2,300 employees in a truly global distribution. We have almost 850,000 registered developers who are working with our APIs. There's over 100,000 business customers. If you look at the size and scale of our network, we terminate over 25 billion minutes and messages annually. And we just got into the video business less than a year and a half ago, and we terminate almost 2 billion video minutes a year. So we have built a leadership position at scale. So let's go back to the notion about communications has profoundly changed. So what's happened in communications? The key thing is, the way I like to describe it, is how important it's become, and how difficult it's become with that greater importance. So if we go back to the way brands used to compete, a brand would compete based upon the product, the price, the availability of that product. But in the internet economy, you no longer can do that. So if I was the manufacturer of this lectern, in the past, I'd say, look at this great lectern. Buy this based upon the quality of this product. Buy it because it's available. I'm a supplier. I'm just down the street. You can get this thing tomorrow, and my price is fair. In the internet economy, though, rest assured, with a click of your smartphone, you could find something very similar, if not identical, anywhere on the globe. You could have it delivered tomorrow, and you could do price discovery in a moment. So the point is that brands are struggling. They no longer can compete on product, price, and availability. It's now all about experience. And the experience that they provide their customer, remember I said before, now communications is more important, but it's also more difficult. So now you have communications that is just proliferating on an omni-channel basis. The way in which we communicate with brands, back in the day, we might communicate with a brand in person. We might go to the retail store. Then we sort of, went into digital. We go to the website. Now we can communicate via chat, via video, via audio, via social. And the numbers of channels is exploding. So you have this situation where communications is ever more important because brands have to differentiate themselves based upon the experience they provide. And think about the experience that you have. It's those interactions as a customer or a customer or a prospect with the company, with the brand. So it's become ever more important, yet ever more difficult. But when you do it really right, what's happened is that communications is actually redefining industries. And so look at a few of these examples. If we think about banking as an example, we all grew up obviously in branch-based banking. But banking is changing dramatically. It's all remote and or increasingly remote and digital banking. Thousands and thousands of branches have been closed. How do people engage in digital banking? Through communications. Think about insurance. The whole notion of claims adjudication, doing that in person if you had a collision on your car, that's going away. Almost 2/3 of claims are handled remotely, again, in a communications modality. Telehealth, the fastest growth area in medicine is telemedicine, is telehealth. Again, it's going through a communication vehicle. Many doctors can actually get reimbursed based upon a video session with you when they make a diagnosis, and then prescribe. And then finally, just take ride sharing as one example of the broader gig economy. There's 500 million people using ride sharing. Now, ride sharing is not, if you think about it, a communication service. Ride sharing is about, it's a mobile, booking solution that brings passenger and driver together. Yet, if there wasn't communications built into Uber or Lyft or whatever's app, such that driver and passenger could find one another, the whole utility of the service would fall away. It clearly would undermine the revenue model of an Uber, but also the fact that we as a passenger, so often can't find the driver. If we didn't have the ability on an in-app basis to communicate with the driver, then my view is that the disruption that has caused to the entire taxi industry would not be as great. So the point is that communications, go back again, communications is ever more important because it drives the experience. It's ever more difficult because it's increasingly omni-channel. When you do it right, it can actually redefine industries, and industries are being built on top of it. So we've organized around this concept, and our mission fundamentally is to make communications more flexible, intelligent, and personal, all with a customer focus. All with a customer focus. We want our customers to stay ahead because remember, you have this dizzying, speed that we're going at, kind of in life in general and clearly in business as things change so rapidly. And the ability to keep up with this ever-increasing importance of communications that is getting more and more difficult because it's getting more and more omni-channel, that's our mission to help customers stay ahead. And so we've organized that into our strategy, which is very simple. Be the world's most flexible communications platform. Be the world's most flexible communications platform. Now, I'll take this to sort of a marketecture slide. And this is kind of a busy slide, but if I may. So we have used the notion of a single platform. Again, we have emerged as a communications platform company. Again, the whole organizing notion is to help our customers stay ahead. We provide communications APIs, contact center, and unified communications. We're uniquely flexible in how you as users can access our capabilities. You can take your pick. You can use proven applications. They're all ready to go. They're sort of prepackaged, if you will. Or you can select from our extensive portfolio of APIs to create your own applications and integrations. Or you can get the best of both. Again, you can start with the application, and then you can customize it with the APIs. The whole idea of this is that it comes down to flexibility, the intelligence of the solution. So I kind of summarize it this, where you take a company which has transformed or has sort of embodied in its DNA the ability to change, to transform itself. From its very founding 20 years ago. Matter of fact, I can't see out here, but Jeff Citron, who is our founder and still currently our chairman, is in the audience as well. And so he's the one that brought it to market, and his team back almost 20 years ago as this disruptive technology in VoIP. Again, as the needs of the market have evolved, we've transformed, and we've now changed the face of communications. And so where Jeff and his team 20 years ago disrupted that industry, what we're doing today is doing it all over again. We're disrupting it once again and building a true leader in cloud communications. So I'll leave you with this one last point. Let's all embrace change. Because the one thing that I know, if we don't all continue to change and embrace change, we're going to get left behind because somebody else is going to do it better than us, and it's going to change more quickly. I thank everybody for coming here today. It's going to be an exciting day. I'm thrilled about all the things that we have going on here. Thanks so much.